you gotta think about what I'm gonna bring you today. This is the talent you've got to respect. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure. We've waited a long time for this. Here she is, along with the New York Reach Ensemble of Mama, I Wanna Sing, Part 2. Here she is, royalty, the one and only Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. All right, I'm going to tell them everything you're getting tired of talking about. You were born in Memphis, moved to Detroit, Michigan when you were very small. Your father, Reverend Franklin, was a household word, knew everybody, knew all the stars, knew Martin Luther King, raised money for the cause. You sang gospel as a kid in church, knocked him out, and then all of a sudden your father helped you cut 4 demos of gospel music. You started selling a little bit, and then you crossed over to the secular, and I assume there were some women in the neighborhood who didn't think that was such a good idea, but your father never really complained too much. How am I doing?
You're doing all right. Doing all right. He was very, very supportive, and yes, he did take me to New York, and we made demonstration records in Detroit that we took with us.
And all of a sudden you look up, and was it what year? You were pronounced Queen of Soul. It wasn't yesterday.
In 62.
1962. And you are a woman who has seen the world and no doubt will see it again many times. You have, throughout the course of your career, maintained your dignity. We never read about you with drugs or any scandal or any of that.
No.
And by now you're a little tired of people asking you, how come you're so unlucky in love? And here he is again asking you.
Who says that I was?
Well, I mean...
I consider myself quite lucky in love and with the opposite sex.
You went from Columbia to Atlantic to Arista.
That's right.
And all the time, even in the early beginning, whenever you cut a song, everybody played it. All the disc jockeys, you on every radio station every 4 minutes.
Well, to begin with, they didn't. I had a lot of what's called turntable hits.
Well, those are the ones that get played.
They got played, but there were no
sell.
sales.
How do you figure that? What was up?
But I think probably because they weren't in the mainstream of what was being defined as commercial music at that time. They were more standards and just things that I liked more than anything else, I think.
Well, let me just gently see if I can sneak up on you on one here. As you know, I'm a very brave man. I'm also very foolish. I thought Ed Bradley was a very good interview on 60 Minutes.
Did you?
I did. I thought that given the time they have, about 20 minutes, we really... those who knew you were reminded again of who you are. Those who weren't sure, who knew only your name and your wonderful sound, got to know you behind the record label and your performances. And you got upset because he suggested that there was a sexuality to your music. And there is.
That was ridiculous.
Tell me.
In part, it was okay. Generally, I didn't particularly care for the 60-minute interview, though.
But most specifically, that feature, I think, upsets you. That, you know, your sexuality is not a, it has dignity, he said. So if anybody, I think, would be proud to embrace it, and I'm sure, you know, your father's memory and his love for you lives in your music, and that includes the natural part of a natural woman. And you, nobody creates this illusion in a more proper, dignified way on a stage than you do. Why would you be upset at his suggestion about it? He asked you about it.
Just totally inappropriate, and I guess that's where his head was at the time.
Yeah.
Aretha, we admire you very much. I'm from New Orleans, and we call Irma Thomas the local queen of soul music, and I wonder if you know Irma.
No, I don't, but love Creole food and been to New Orleans many times. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Aretha. I'd just like to know what kind of advice would you give someone who wants to get into the business?
I would say get a good demonstration record or tape to begin with. Select the label that you'd like to be with. Try to get a key name at that label. And a good theatrical lawyer to begin with.
You've worked with a lot of different people over the years, everyone from the Blues Brothers to George Michael. What is it like working with some of those people?
Had a real good time with George Michael. He's highly professional. He's a very technical kind of person. Belushi was a lot of fun. We got up real early to do the Blues Brothers, but always a lot of fun on the set. Once you got there and you woke up, everything was okay.
Is the 60s ready? It is? Brian, I always want, let's show off. This is a little frustrating because it only shows snippets, but here is the Queen in the 60s, and just a suggestion of her sound then. What'd you say? Nice looking that.
Yeah, I like the weight. like the weight.
I have the one scandal I want to bring up. A couple of years ago...
No scandals allowed today.
Okay. I got tickets to see you a couple of years ago over at Radio City, and you canceled. And the rumor, the scuttlebutt around was that you were afraid to fly. And
No, I remember the performance that you're speaking of. The agent kind of jumped the gun there, and it had not been confirmed. Yeah. Kind of anxious, and I was anxious to get here, but it hadn't been confirmed.
Yes.
When you were talking about sexuality in music, what do you think of today's rap music lyrics?
Some of it I like a lot, and some of the rest is not so nice, kind of negative. But some of it's pretty good. I like Run DMC, and I like, what's his name? Yeah, MC Hammer. I like him. I like him. You can't touch that. LL Cool J. I like him. And I like a lot of it, but some of it really, I don't think should be played.
And would Two Live Crew be in some of it? Should not be?
I haven't heard what they're doing. I've heard about it, but I personally have not heard it.
Well. Have you seen Madonna's video, Justify My Love?
Not yet.
You've heard about it?
I don't think so.
Stole my question.
Oh, sorry.
I have another one. Aretha, given the Milli Vanilli scandal, have you ever lip-synced?
Yes, I have, but not to a record. Only on shows
In
where they wanted me to do a lip sync, but I've never done it to record.
And when you did it to your voice.
Yes. Right.
Hi, Aretha. I grew up with you, and I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. And I would like to know, when are you going to come back and entertain us? Come home.
As soon as I'm invited. Somebody invite me.
When you first started out, who was your biggest influence?
My biggest influences to begin with were James Cleveland and Clara Ward and my dad.
Mm-hmm. And your biggest influence as a young woman?
As a very young girl.
Just as a young girl, was Sam Cooke.
I love Sam Cooke. I really do.
My sense is that if you
Oh,
had...
I wished.
Yeah.
And I wished.
He really made your heart flutter.
Yes, he did.
Uh-huh. Sir.
Yes, I'd like to know when you're going to reduce a new record.
A new record, I'll have something out the first part of January, 91.
Are you there, caller? Go ahead. I'm glad you waited. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think her music is so vital. I want to know if you write it. It seems like you're so. Do you write all your material? If not, who writes your material? It's absolutely fantastic. The way you sing it is even better.
Some of it I write myself, and some of it I get from Aretha, and some of it's brought to me by friends and the like.
Mm-hmm. And you're happy now?
Yes, I am.
Is there a man in your life?
Someone that I'm dating.
Well, that's a fabulous question, got a boring answer.
You want the detail?
Yes. Well, so does the house.
I wouldn't have a man, Phil, if I give up the details.
Miss Franklin, I'm one of your greatest fans. I heard rumor once that you were going to do the Mahalia Jackson story. Is that true?
Yes, that was true. Uh-huh.
And still is.
No. Jennifer Holliday wound up doing that. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that Miss Franklin came from Columbia. Was that South Carolina?
No, ma'am. Columbia Records. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. She came from Memphis. That's all right. Listen, you can't stand up. You'll never. That's what I say. You can't speak. You'll never learn. Right? Yes. Yes.
Miss Franklin, first of all, I think you're great. But as a performer, were there ever any downtimes that you got burned out, and what did you do to get out of it, if so?
To begin with, I was wondering why everyone else had a hit and I didn't. And so we started investigating the reasons why. Yeah.
And
I was never discouraged, but we did a lot of Sherlock Holmes.
And what clues turned up?
It was about being in the mainstream of what was construed as being commercial.
Uh-huh.
At that time.
So you were, so this would be early 60s, late 50s.
Choice of material, yes.
And at the beginning, maybe this is oversimplifying it. Please let me just ask you, was it harder to get gospel out of the black church and into the disc jockey's consciousness? I'm asking. I don't know. And was there pressure on you to lean more toward pop, even maybe at the expense of
Oh, no,
R&B?
at that time I was recording secular. That's the time period that I'm speaking of.
Uh-huh. And I see, but you weren't mainstream enough. Is that what the exploration? I see.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then you must wonder whether that was just research or whether the work you were doing was really had the exposure that it was entitled to have. And wasn't the market always there for your specific and wonderful, unique talent? And maybe the audience grew into you, or did you change much? What you decided to do?
The material changed, the production changed, and that was what made the difference.
Mm-hmm. Now, after
from Columbia to Atlantic.
Mm-hmm. Now, in many of the documentaries that have written about you, and it seems that you can't talk about Aretha unless you talk to Jerry Wexler. And I don't mean to, he does not exaggerate his own role, but quite obviously he was a very important partner to you. One of the points he makes is that he encouraged you to sit down and play the piano while you sang.
And that was one of the big differences.
Isn't that funny that that should be such a revolutionary thing, but it was, and it was a simple idea. You're a wonderful pianist.
Thank you.
Did your daddy lean over your shoulder when you were a child, or did you practice voluntarily?
Well, he used to give me records to see if I could play what was being played. And so one of my very first pieces he gave me was by Eddie Haywood. And I played that, and then he gave me some other things to see if I could play those. Things by Art Tatum and various other pianists, Errol Garner, and people like that, because I play by ear.
So you never had a formal lesson then?
Not really.
You just picked these chords up by yourself, huh, genius?
Well...
That's the way I learned myself.
They just came to me, Phil.
Uh-huh. Let's see number 5 at your leisure, friends. Is 5 ready? Okay, here's the 70s. You're going to be frustrated because we only have time for smidgens here. The 70s, Aretha Franklin.
This is my brother. He's helping me.
Well, if it's your brother, I guarantee you I'm going to call him sir, and he can stay here as long as he wants to.
Just pull it, Vaughn.
Is this Vaughn?
Yes. This is my older brother, Vaughn.
Uh-huh. Well, still taken care of, baby sister. Thank you. Nice to say hello. You look, is there necessarily a difference? Maybe not. You enjoy singing from a pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
That was your childhood experience.
That's right.
You also have you make a political statement, Miss Franklin. I don't know if there's ever been, you don't sing, oh, baby, you left me, I don't know what I'm going to do without you, I can't live without you, baby, please come back to me, even if you beat me up sort of song.
No, none of that for me.
Always had this, didn't need to be converted. Probably from your father, huh? You got this.
Well, I joined the church when I was 10 years old. I was a candidate for baptism, and that's when I joined. So I became converted.
Huh. But the church experience did not necessarily tell you that you should be a passive little girl, is the point.
I was a nice little girl when I joined the church.
Yeah? And the church experience...
And I'm still a nice.
May it please the court, my questions were not intended to presume otherwise.
Well, who's on the stand?
But I think you know what I mean, that certainly part of the reasons for the tremendous attention and stardom, in addition to your magnificent gift, is the statement you make in your songs about pride, independence. We should not be surprised that Martin Luther King Jr. found his way to the stage on, I assume, more than one occasion during your either being honored or, and your father also marched with him. So one of your memories is that of
Yes. My dad organized the Great Freedom March that they had on Detroit in '63. And I believe Mahalia Jackson and Harry Belafonte were trying to raise funds at the time for SCLC. And so they called my dad, and he organized the march there.
We are in New York City with Aretha Franklin, and yes, maybe we will be able to encourage her to you-know-what for us. And we'll be back in just a moment.
The audience, please send a postcard to Donohue Tickets, care of NBC, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, New York, 10112. Remember, postcards only, please.
Well, guess who's at the piano?
Don't wear me out.
Misty watercolor, colored memories, yeah, yeah, for the way we were. Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind. Smiles we gave to one, smiles we gave to one another, yeah. Oh, baby, for the way we were. Really good.
I never met anybody afraid to follow me. That's the wonderful thing about it. what I do, yeah.
Hi, Aretha. I've been a fan of yours for years. And you've been with many musicians and people in sports that have been in drugs and involved in other things. I have two questions. I'd like to know how you manage to keep your head above water, and also, have you ever thought of returning home to your gospel roots on a permanent basis?
Well, there are, I'm sure, some people in the business who have that problem. Fortunately, and thank God, I don't, and my group doesn't. As far as returning home to gospel, I never left it.
Aretha, I'd like to ask you, how have you been able to balance your Christian beliefs, okay, and the recording business? Because sometimes we know that, the recording business is, kind of on the sly side as well. How have you been able to do that?
I wouldn't say that the recording business is on the sly side, but my dad brought us up to have very strong principles and morals, and that works.
I just want to say that you look absolutely beautiful. And my favorite record of yours is Sparkle. And I just wanted to know if you wanted to say anything about Curtis Mayfield.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
I just wanted to know if you wanted to say anything about Curtis Mayfield.
I'm very sorry about what happened to Curtis, and God willing, he'll be okay. Yes. He's a tremendous talent.
Aretha, I have two questions in one. How many children do you have? And how was it raising your children being a famous mom? How were you able to help them despite the fact that maybe your fame might have intruded on their lives?
Mm-hmm. I have 4 children, and I guess it's been pretty much what it's been for any mother. Raising young men can be a little difficult, men being naturally aggressive. And when they get to a certain age, they get pretty spunky. So you know what I'm saying, right? I can see that. Yeah, you have to really deal and stay positive with them.
Well, let me show them this. Here is your performing tribute to your dad and to your sons. This is very brief, but this was a moment. Watch here, right here.
And for you all.
On the day I was born, said my father, said he, here's an elegant legacy waiting for thee. Here's a rhyme for your lips and a song for your heart. And I want you to sing it whenever the world falls apart.
We should say, there he is. And in our audience today, you've met Vaughn, her beloved and ever devoted brother, and I am pleased to present 2 of her sons. Here are Calf and Teddy. Kindly stand and take your bows, young men. If, not Teddy. Teddy, just Calf. Teddy's out making another album, I hope. Yes, sir, you wanted to ask.
I'd like to know whether during your career you've encountered, especially in the early time, encountered any racism, and whether you think the crossover from gospel to secular might have had some racial reasons behind it, the problems you had.
In the early days when I traveled with my dad, there were a couple of times that we had very slight encounters with it, kind of subtle, but nevertheless it was there.
This moved you to see this man who was so much a part of your life, almost an extension of you for such a long time. We should remind this audience again what it already knows, and that is that your father was shot in a robbery at his own home and was to survive for almost 6 years, but only in a comatose condition. So you had the pain of not only seeing your father being victimized by a random violence, but also living for a considerable time after that and really totally incapacitated, a time in which you accommodated him at home. So life will break your heart. We should not be surprised that the pain of it is often found at the center of your work. And I suppose that's what creative artists do, among other things, is put their own signature on what they do. And you'll give us that you do that. The pain of that loss and the downs of life are to be found in your work. Do you agree?
Ups and downs, yes. They would be for me like they would for anyone else.
Is the caller there? I'm glad you waited. Hi, go ahead.
Hello, Aretha.
Hi.
Listen, you did a excellent job on a remake of a song that the Rolling Stones made very popular, Jumping Jack Flash.
Thank you.
And I was wondering what it was like to work with Keith Richards and other Rolling Stones.
Keith was great, very professional, highly professional. I rather expected it to be something else, but it wasn't like that at all. He was even more professional than myself almost. He got there before I did, and he was right on the money.
I'm glad you called, and we'll be back with Aretha Franklin in just a moment. By a very talented group of young men and women, the New York Reach Ensemble of Mama, I Want to Sing Part 2. We heard them at the opening of our program, and don't they come from the heart and, yes, the soul as well. They would like to do Mary, Don't You Weep, which is from your Amazing Grace album, and they want to do it for you.
This is a special tribute to you on this one. Not to know.
Well, guess who's here? Only the woman who put this whole thing together. Here is the reason for Mama I Want to Sing. Here is Vi Higginson. Congratulations. What a fabulous outfit you have here. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, Aretha, I wanted to let you know how you doing, and I'm pregnant, and I'd like to know how you feel about bringing up a baby in the way this world is with AIDS and the war and all that.
Could you speak just a little louder, please?
I said that I'm pregnant, right? And I'd like to know how do you feel about bringing up any kids in this world today, the way it's going with the AIDS and the war crisis.
About bringing them up.
In a world of AIDS, Persian Gulf, and dirty lyrics.
Well, you're pregnant, right?
Yes.
Well, birth is indeed a miracle. And it's a blessing, for sure. You do the best that you can.
Yes.
I would just like to know, what is your personal favorite song that you made?
I've got a lot of personal favorites. A lot of them.
Sir.
Aretha, among the singers today, who do you see as being the next Queen of Soul?
Very interesting. Very interesting. I'll talk to you outside about it.
Are you there? And there's no jealousy. You must feel, I assume, a certain pride and a positive energy when you see someone who may be a little younger starting to explode on the music scene.
Well, how much younger are they than me?
Well, certainly you must enjoy the work of Anita Baker.
Yes, I do. Some of it. She's an excellent writer. Yeah.
Are you there? I'm glad you called. Hi.
Hello?
Sir.
Yes, my name's Gary Cooper of the Bronx.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say, Aretha, as far as that question about who's the queen, you are. My next question is, as far as being influential, how do you feel about Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell and Nat King Cole?
They were fabulous. Nat King Cole, fabulous. I used to listen to a lot of his records when I was a very small girl. Straighten Up and Fly Right. And he had a fabulous thing that he did with the piano that I tried. That wasn't one of the records that my dad gave me, but I heard it. It was something like, see, I can't even get it together now.
I'm glad you called, Bronx. I don't have a lot of time. Yes.
Miss Franklin, I've been practicing all day of what I was going to say to you. And, I finally got a chance, and I forgot everything except you're the greatest. I love you. You signed 5 of my albums at your last concert. I brought you stuff for 20 Romas. My name is Damon. Would you sign this for me when you're finished?
And we'll be back in just a moment, Damon. I have waited too long to tell you that along with Johnny Cash, Billy Joel, and Quincy Jones, our guest today will be honored with the 1990 Legend Award Grammy from the National Academy of Recording Arts and Science. And here's just, show them some of the, all she's done is 115. First woman elected to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. First woman, thank you. Here you are. Talk about good moments. Watch this. Just a little bit of a montage. Here's just some of this.
Aretha Franklin.
There ain't nothing like the real thing, the real thing.
Miss Aretha Franklin. Nothing like that.
Aretha Franklin.
And let me say that the...
Now, there was a tall, dark, handsome guy in that first group, the Temptations, that really tried to wear my last nerve out. I have to have that tape.
Well, wear your last nerve out,
Yes,
huh?
my last... He was on the last nerve.
Yes.
Aretha, is there any song that's particularly painful for you to sing?
Right. Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Is there any song that's particularly painful for you to sing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Painful. Any with bad memories, painful? Nothing?
No.
Well, you can get through them, huh? Yes.
Hi, Aretha. I'm a great fan of yours also. A couple of years ago, you did a collaboration with Luther Vandross, and it was really fantastic. How is he to work with, and do you plan to do anything future with him?
Luther is fabulous. We have a lot of fun in the studio. We just did something called Doctor's Orders, and it's on the new LP.
Yes.
Hi, Aretha. I just want to say what took him so long to give you that award, and you look fabulous.
Aretha, I'm from Boston, Mass, and I wanted to know when you're going to put on a concert there. Thank God I came today to get tickets for you.
You have any? Is Boston in the plan at all?
Oh, yes, next year, early next year.
And we'll be back because we've got some work to do with this magnificent choir and Aretha Franklin in just a moment.
212-227-READ.
Thank you sincerely, New York's own Mama, I Want to Sing. What a ensemble of talented young men and women you are. And please let me call your attention to the album. Aretha's next album is, I think we have a picture, is with Burt Bacharach and I think Luther Vandross. And it will be out next year. Yes, we will look for it. The choir and Miss Franklin have agreed to take us out or help us conclude this magnificent hour with When We All Get to Heaven. I'm going to be there. Sing it for us.
Provided and promotional fees paid by the following.